So now leapfrogging is working to our benefit because we have the parts ready. We have a couple of indoor days of work, and the airbrushing we can do in the cellar. So today might be a great day to do the graphics. And all of the stuff's been drying out in the garage from yesterday. That's beautiful. That dried up. Just couldn't be any better. So, with the parts dry, the rain coming down like crazy, we got to plan out a day. But first thing, we have to oogle the bikes a little bit, just to remind us how much fun we're having at this point. Maybe some people enjoy golf, some people enjoy bowling, some people enjoy archery, some people enjoy who knows what. I don't know. Everybody seems to enjoy something different. But I've been lucky enough in my life to find something I enjoy. And what it is working on these old motorcycles. Yep, we have 3 days of this coming. 3 days, and that means that Treezilla will not be coming down for 3 days, maybe longer. Boy, I'm getting nervous about that tree. Every day it looks like it's leaning more and more toward Bill's house. And somehow the fish are enjoying their hibernation here during our little 3 days of rain coming. But it was wonderful. We painted and we used up that really good day. I was tempted to even go for a ride yesterday, and I'm glad I got the painting done. We are all set now for a few days of working in the cellar. And I'm done bringing all the parts in. Gotta get ready to have some coffee here. It is a crappy day. That stuff will be drying now underneath the heating vent. We're going to be working on these today. I'll make up the plan for the graphics. The arrowheads, we have patterns for everything. I like to just look over. I call this the perp walk in the morning. Try to get me inspired to do some sanding and grinding and whatever. But every day this table grows, every day. In fact, we've had to expand into 2 tables now. But so worth it. This has really been just an enjoyable season of working on this stuff. I can't tell you how much I enjoy it anyway. And it keeps me, well, it keeps me busy, and it keeps me as young as I possibly can be, considering how old I am. And before we go anywhere, there's always one thing that's more important, even than the perp walk. Get a nice cup of coffee cooking here. Hey, you might remember we made a pattern for everything. We made extra patterns. We adjusted the patterns. We made little logos. We made everything. Templates for the lettering. Now, all of these things combined, when I was all done and I was happy with everything, I made a permanent pattern to lay out this part of it so I'd know ahead of time what it would look like on the motorcycle. And I made it with that gold material that we're going to use for the stenciling. That was available from Michael's, that kind of peel material. So from this we have all the stuff we're going to need today, and I wanted to show the material. Let me just get this off. And this is the name of the material. It's about $1 a sheet, $1.50 a sheet from Michael's, number 631. Now, the good news is it comes in every color possible, and just unlimited amounts of colors. And so what it allows you to do is when you're doing a job like this, you can lay out all your trim, see what it's going to look like, move it, adjust it, make it thinner, thicker. You can do all that adjusting. This would be really super stuff to have on a model plane, by the way. And then of course we're going to show how once we have a pattern, we're going to mask it off. So from all that, I wound up with 2, one for fairing, and these are permanent, where I had gone back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, longer, thinner, wider, different points where they met, and then I cut them out of the gold material, put them on a motorcycle, rode around for a while, and got some input from other people, and so I know I want to be very close to this shape. And I also want to make sure that the right fairing and the left fairing, because they're going to meet at the nose, that I have them very, very accurate. So this is going to be a very accurate. I'm really going to take my time and try to get this as accurate as possible. Now, I always like to start off a day, and I have a feeling what's in here is my sandpaper, and I wanted to make a point, because it's good information, whether you're going to do this or you just want to know it just so you know it. In my case, I want to know everything I can about everything. That's the problem. So what I did, I found that you could buy this. Let's see. Yeah, I always have to check. Because when you order things from Amazon, a lot of times you order 2,000 grit paper, you get 1,000 grit. Nope. It's full sheets, and it's actually 50 sheets that become 100, because you never use a full sheet. You cut them in half. So by just looking at this, I'm very happy for two things. It's the right grit, and it's the right paper. It's the red paper. So we are really good. We got this from Amazon. They delivered it in a few days. Right to my door. It didn't even have to go out in the pouring rain today. So here's a couple of things that are worth, whenever you do this, close your eyes. These little break-off knives have proven to be pretty good for what we're doing. Now, you would think this little pattern just evolved in a matter of 10-15 minutes. It took a long time. And a lot of, because what I did, I moved it back, I moved it forward, I made it upside down, I made it backwards, I made it forward. I put it up here, I put it here, I put it on my nose. It took a long time for me to become comfortable with the idea. And the parts are, I want to accent this point. I want to make sure it's parallel here, and it's not going to be parallel here because this is a curve. So the first thing I want to do is get this in position where I think it's going to be just about right. And it looks like that's about right about there. Now, lucky, these are two you don't see at the same time, so they're not ultra critical. But if the one's on the nose, the one's up here, if one is off, you can imagine. It's not going to look like what I envision. Now, just general information. The 3M, the blue vinyl tape, I always like using this. It has a shelf life. Once it's more than about a year old, though, it's, well, not exactly what I want. But now by laying that tape out there, and I can do this. You notice I cut a little hole. This works real good on model airplanes too, which I'm sure. Let's just get that in position. Put a little piece of tape there. Kind of holds it in position. Now we're free. This is going to give us the paint edge that we want. And so once I lay one out, I'm going to for sure lay both of them out, because what I want to make sure is not going to happen. The worst of all things to happen is that they don't match. I do not want to have that, of course. Now, the trick of tricks that I found works pretty well is to take this piece of tape, let's call these arrowheads for lack of a better word, get the edge down with my fingernail, cut this not at the angle, but at a little bit more than the angle, so it actually comes to a point. Now when I do the other piece, I'm going to do the same thing. So these two, and I'll try to show this on a close-up lens. The problem that I'm working around a little bit here is it's a dilemma of this. These things have perfectly straight edges, and the part has got a very slight curve, so I'm trying to account for that. Now, when I think I've got it where I think I want it, now I can pick this up. Now when I do the other side, I'll take this tape off with my fingernail or with the little knife, since I don't have any fingernails. In my lifetime, I have used thousands of rolls of tape. Literally, in 60 years of modeling, I can't even imagine how many rolls of tape I've used. Okay, so we have this. Now we're going to save this, because if I just did this by eye, I'd never know what it looks like, and I've already had this made with that vinyl material. Now I've got to get the corner down with my fingers. Make sure it's the most important part of the whole job is that point. Now a couple of things would work to my advantage. I would never want to do this, and I've learned this the hard way. I don't want to do this and then paint it tomorrow. I want to do this, and I don't want that tape sitting on there any longer than it has to, and when I pull it off, I'll use heat. But I did my little test that how did it work out when I pulled the tape up after an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours? I didn't see a lot of difference. But since I'm old school, since I'm just old, I guess is the right word, I'm going to let it sit overnight before I take the tape off, and I will use heat. So I've got all the corners, all the edges here that I need. And now in essence, that's one of the 4 arrowheads that's going to go on this part. I'll tack rag that down, of course. So I want to just double check again that I'm going to be happy with that. Since I've already seen how this looks on a finished motorcycle, you would think I'd be happy. So now the trick is I want to take the mirror image side and put the same pattern on that side and then hold them side by side and see if they're the same. And just like doing any mirror images where these 2 parts you're really not going to see at the same time. So if one was a little off, same thing up here, a little bit tiny off, yeah, you won't really see it. It's not the end of the world. But there are some, and it's the nose of the fairing, that you will see at the same time. And actually at some point in time you'd be able to see the 2 mirrors at the same time. And they have to be really accurate. So obviously on this side we reverse the pattern. I want to make sure I get it exactly where I would like to have it for my own reference. Get that little piece of tape in there. That'll hold it, and now it's just a question of backmasking it. So while I'm doing this backmasking, this is what's going to give me the paint edge. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to hold the tape in tension so that all these lines are relatively straight. And I can't use the edge of the part for this because the part has an ever so slight curve to it. I want these all to be all straight lines. That was part of the look that I was looking for. And notice, and it's a good thing, I'm trying to use fresh tape. This tape is from the FCR project. It's probably only 8 months old, but I wouldn't want to take tape out of the drawer, and I have a drawer full of tape, believe me. I wouldn't want to take tape that's 5, 6 years old. And what happens with tape when it gets really, really old like that, it always gets extra ultra sticky, and it pulls up paint, and it leaves a residue on your work that's almost impossible to get off without acetone or something terrible. So now I'm cutting that right into the corner. So what I've done, I want to show this with a macro lens because this is one of the better little tips. I'm not sure if you can really see that angle because again, this is not a really good macro lens. It's more of an angle so that what happens, the 2 tapes end at the point, because that point is going to be a very visible thing. If I have a little ripple in the paint or something there, it'll be very visible. Now the thing to hold them both together and just look at it. Actually, I'll have Karen come down and look at it. Sometime I miss the boat, and an extra set of eyes is always to my advantage. But having that backmasked like that, having that backmasked, now we can move on to the 2 pieces, and we already have patterns. We just have to make sure we position them exactly equal, because that will be a focal part. Is that the front of the motorcycle's looking at you, they'll be going up, and they better be perfectly equal. Now I just held these 2 pieces together. They're not even totally snapped together because I don't want to take all the backmasking off, but just to make sure I know exactly what area I have to work in here. Now you see, here's the problem. Here's a curve, this is a curve, but I want straight lines, and I want them to accent each other. I don't want it to be that they're obviously something's wrong. So when I put this piece up here, I have to tack it in place and make sure I have the borders I want and have it in exactly the right spot. And that's where having these patterns and we've already taken probably 300 or 400 pictures of a motorcycle, all comes into play. Now here's a good example of what I was talking about, of having these pictures. I'm just going to do this so I can see this from a lot of different angles. And that's why having those, and we decided we didn't like that little one there. And because again, we're trying to keep this simple. I don't want it to get too undignified, I guess is the right word. I don't want to turn it into a something that I don't expect it to be. Now see, here I can see, and I'll try to look closer in, how those looked when they were in place, the shape, how much I have off. That really, just having these pictures and having them from every possible angle. Here's the 2, and you can see that if you see them at the same time and one is crooked, it's really not going to be that good. Here's another good angle. So all these pictures that I took, they served a purpose. And when the project is done, of course, I'll be glad I took them. And it was so helpful to me that when John did these pictures and he did the one with the gold wheels, I could get an idea what it was going to look like with the gold wheels. And this, of course, is such a big help to me just to get the vision that I want to have for this. And again, it's not, I'm trying to keep this relatively simple, relatively dignified, and the look that it could be made by the factory. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. I don't want it to look like a chopper or anything with some flames going down the end. I want it to have a very special look, and I'm really working hard to get it that way. So now that I can see that, it'll help me in laying this out and positioning it. And then again, I'll have to pull the two of them together and make sure before I do anything else that they are exactly equal. Okay, we got one. Now I have to do the exact opposite thing on the other side and then sit, and a good way to measure this would be always how far to the material, how far to the end. Make sure they're not misappropriated in some way. Now I'm trying to look at these from a lot of different angles and make sure I got them, that they're equal. They're not going to be dissimilar in any way I can correct now. I took some measurements out at the end. It ends right where the center line would be. It ends 1/4 of an inch back from the box. So I think we got it pretty accurate, but there's more to this than meets the eye. And so what I decided to do, I made a little corporate decision, because it's getting late in the day and Karen has some errands to do today, so I'm really not going to get time to do the graphics. I thought one of the things I could do today, I didn't plan it this way, but every day of course is different in my life. I'm going to backmask this and shoot the gold if it's not raining. If it's raining, I'll do it out in the doorway, because this will just be an airbrush job with the IWATA airbrush. And then tomorrow when I come down to shop, I can pull the backmask and I can see how this is going to look before I do the graphics and make a final choice on the graphics. So I think overall that's going to be a good choice. Masking this for sure, I'm going to have to be super accurate. And the reason is because this gold leaves little sparkles everywhere in the overspray. So, as any metallic color will. And I don't want that Bentley black to be anything but black. I don't want any sparkles in it. See, here's what happens when you use up old tape. This is definitely an old roll of tape. Maybe we should break down and get a new roll of tape here. I'm hoping I thought we could use this up on this kind of tinfoil stuff, but well, anyway, tape is a very variable thing, boy. It makes me crazy. But anyway, so what I thought I'd do is I'd start with the backmasking, but I've got to cover everything. And this is one of those things, it's just going to take time. And I'll be able to imprint this and cut around it, maybe just save a little work. I'm thinking maybe what I can do is this. I can fold this back and make that kind of a, maybe I'm just getting too cute. But as I did this, I thought, I wanted to see how this would look before I actually commit to the graphics, because I had that, first off, the graphics are going to take a long time to cut, and I wanted to do it all in one shot. I didn't want to have like I'll be in the middle of it and Karen will have to go somewhere, or we have to do some family stuff, or Miles would come over to bake a cupcake or something. So by splitting this up into 2 days for these fairing parts, I think I've made a good choice. So this is a very important thing, and that this does not bleed anywhere, and I'm being really meticulous about it, which means I'll probably have some touch-ups along the way here. But it would be very nice if we don't have to do much touch-up. But it always seems like there's some. So what we have, I got one part done. I'll get the other one done and fire up the IWATA airbrush and see if we can, when I get this done today, I'll really feel good, because we're in this patch of really crappy weather. And of course I want to make sure I always thank our late friend, good friend, Walt Prey, for giving us some really good tips on painting, and one of them was this backmasking with tinfoil. Thank you, Walt. So here's one final tip, and this is really a good one. Anywhere I'm going to put gold, just before I go to paint the gold, I'm taking one swipe with 2000 grit paper. Just one swipe, and never go up to a point, go away from a point. Now once that's done, I got Turbo Steve. These are the Turbo Steve Harbor Freight tack rags. Guaranteed we'll never have a fisheye, because that gold is so reflective, any little spot in there will be a problem. Now again, what I wanted to mention is we made this whole, we're going to paint a lot of gold, and I never want to get to the end where I can't get matching paint, especially if I want to ever replicate this in the future, or somebody else wants to make a windy replica or something, who knows. I'm so famous. Anyway, this is the trick I wanted to show, is always have a little bit in a small jar that you know is exactly the right consistency, the right amount of thinner, the right amount of everything. You got your old IWATA airbrush. Now as soon as, and I wanted to show you, you don't just shake this. See, you tell some people shake it, they go, and that's it. No, you got to look, and when there's no pigment at the bottom, I mean, that is critical. Critical, especially we're going over black with the gold. Now it's really critical at the last minute, just before I take this outside. At first I don't even know if I'm going to be able to go outside, because we're in between the raindrops here. But either way, the way this is hopefully going to work is, if it's not raining, I can do it in a cellar, because this is such a small amount, and I keep the door open and a fan on. But again, one of our favorite tools, and it has been reliable for so many years, our good old IWATA airbrush. Now it's still raining out there, and just enough to make this impossible to do outside, so we'll just try to get by with this. Well, what we'll try to do, it's pretty awkward shooting video in here, but we'll try to give this 3 coats, 5-10 minutes apart. It should be fine. Now the idea is, as you put the coats on, try to hold the airbrush 90 degrees to what you're painting, so that the paint doesn't tend to blow up under the tape edge. Even though we've done a good job of this, you never really know. The reason I'm showing this is we have our little amount. Every time I fill the airbrush, I shake and make sure nothing's on the bottom, because any metallic paint sinks to the bottom relatively quickly. And you can do all kind of things with a spray gun, put a ball bearing in it. You do with an airbrush, you're kind of limited, and you just got to deal with. In fact, you got to do that in between coats, and we're going to get 3 coats on all together. And we're taking advantage of a day it's really rain, it's impossible to paint outside. Now here's another tip that it's hard to show because of the way we're painting in the back door there. One of the things with an airbrush that I always do is I always start the spray here. I'll hit the trigger and then go across the part and let the trigger go. I don't hold it over the part and hit the trigger, because an airbrush, when you have this much pigment in the paint's thicker than it normally would be, and I made it that way on purpose. One of the things that happens, it'll build up and then spit. And now you can see that really laid out just beautifully. I'm going to get 2 other coats on it off camera. No sense belaboring that. It's not really fun working in that back room like it is outside, but when I get 3 coats on this, this will be as gold as Goldilocks. Well, with the 3 coats on there, that's just about as nice as it's going to be. We're under a heating vent here. Maybe I'll hang it up so it's closer to the heating vent, in fact. But that's all the work we're going to get done today. Tomorrow I'll hopefully be able to get that 650 lettering on. And I look around, I've got, by then I'll have parts to buff to, or parts to re-clear, as the case may be. But this was a big thing, getting this done today and taking advantage of a really rainy day. Our airbrush, our IWATA airbrush, has been so good for so long. I want to just make sure that it stays that way. Now I want to show this trick. I've probably shown this 100 times already, but this is really a good little tip. Something you can put in the bank. I always have a jar of acetone just for cleaning this. I stick the whole gun in there, scoop out a little bit of it, just run that through the gun. The next time we go to use it, we're good to go. So this was a big thing to get done today, and I'm kind of glad I made the decision, because the 650, I'm not exactly sure yet. I wanted to see how it was going to look with this painted gold. And the biggest thing of all, and I say it as many times as I say it, I really mean it. It's never worth rushing. We have a long winter ahead of us and plenty of time to do this right, and I don't want to skimp on anything. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Enjoy that IWATA airbrush. What a good tool that is. Wow. Probably had it for 30 years already, or 25 years. Anyway, and I love this color gold. When I mixed this gold, I got the pigment off Amazon. Wow. I can't tell you how happy I am the way this all played out. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching.